inexplicable panic. He rose to his feet and elbowed his way through the crowd. The doors were about to close as he jumped out at the last second and into the car behind him, heart beating fast in his chest as the train took off once again. As the Orange Line southbound arrived at Government Station and opened the doors, the crowd waiting to get on board didn't realize at first what was going on. As usual, they approached the doors, waiting for them to open so people could get out and then they could get in. Evelyn Edwards was one of those waiting for the train. As always, she took the train from Government to Douglas Road, where she worked at Nordstrom in Merrick Park. Evelyn had her driver's license revoked after a DUI and had found that taking the train was actually a lot easier than being stuck in traffic every day. On this particular day, Evelyn was lost in her own thoughts, thinking about her grown daughter, who she hadn't seen in 4 months. She'd called her the night before to apologize once again, but she hadn't picked up. Evelyn felt shameful and wanted to tell her just how sorry she was for the things she had said. She also wanted to tell her daughter that the drinking had stopped now, and she was doing AA, this time really doing the program with all the steps and not just sitting there because she had to. She wanted to tell her that she was better and that things had changed, really changed this time. She wanted to tell her all those things, but her daughter wouldn't even answer her darn phone. "Don't you know you're all I've got?" Evelyn was so lost in her thoughts that she didn't even notice the passengers behind the doors. She didn't see their crying and strained faces as they were pressed against the glass, nor did she hear the hammering on the doors or the desperate cries for them to open. When the doors did slide open simultaneously, and the passengers inside, screaming and gasping for air, tumbled out, Evelyn didn't even look up from her phone. She was looking at her background photo, a picture of her daughter taken at the beach when she was only 5. The day she remembered as one of the best in her life. Before everything turned bad, before she started to drink, before Juan died, before she lost Pablo while 8 months pregnant, before the clouds darkened above them, before she cried in bed all day, before the fog of grief made her a prisoner in her own mind and destroyed everything. Before all that. We can go back, can't we? Can't we find ourselves again? Evelyn lifted her gaze and realized that the crowd in front of her had dispersed, and an entire flock of passengers staggered toward her. Several of them collapsed in front of her feet. One woman came toward her, and Evelyn didn't notice her before it was too late, and she collapsed in Evelyn's arms. Blood was gushing from her nose and eyes, and she was gasping for air, choking and wheezing. Evelyn shrieked fearfully and pushed her away, just as a man sank to the ground in front of her, his ragdoll limp body falling to the platform with a thud. Evelyn stood paralyzed and watched this. Blood smeared on her clothes and hands, while hundreds of people lay gasping on the ground, reminding her of the fish on her father's boat when she was a child. A man in front of her lifted his head and looked her straight in the eyes, then breathed his last breath with a deep sigh. Seeing this, Evelyn whimpered, then turned around, wanting to get away from there, fast, when she suddenly stood face to face with a soldier. He and the rest of his troop coming up behind him were wearing gas masks and clothes that, to Evelyn, looked like spacesuits. 1 month later. Chapter 1. We're here for your annual inspection. I showed the small woman behind the front desk my identification card from Florida Department of Health, moving it very quickly to make sure she didn't get a proper look at it and realize it wasn't me on the picture, but someone who looked remotely like me. The woman had told me she was the manager of the spa. "We need full access to the premises, please," I said. We were me and my sister, Sydney. I called her that even though it wasn't the name she went by these days, and no one had called her that since she was 7 years old. She was known publicly as Kelly Stone, the Hollywood actress. Still, I insisted on calling her Sydney, which was her birth name before our biological father stole her in a Walmart and kidnapped her to London, where she grew up apart from me. I, on the other hand, grew up on the space.